Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on. Jeffrey, thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a little rainy in Maine, USA, but we'll get out of it. The sun's supposed to come out in the next couple days, which will be great.
Pretty good. It's sunny and rainy here as well. I guess it's just that kind of a season. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you knew that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living, please.
I am an author and public speaker and have been focusing on that for about the last 6 years or so, almost exclusively.
So you were like walking on the street one day and you were like, let me be an author, a writer, and a public speaker, or there is something that led to that?
Oh my gosh, my whole life led to that.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this a lot since you initially approached me and asked these questions. Of course, I've thought about them in the background, but this really helped put a fine point on it. And it's really amazing looking back at all the forks in the road and the ones I took, and everything seemed to be leading me toward writing about the outdoors. For the majority of my life, I basically kept my outdoor life and my professional writing life, which at the time was commercial writing, separate. And I realized that there was an opportunity and, in fact, a drive for them to merge together. And that's how I started writing about my passions, hiking and conservation in particular.
I've noticed something that, especially when I talk to people who have a lot of experience behind them, uh, somehow we all end up where we're supposed to end up as long as we follow a couple of basic instincts, as long as we get to know ourselves, get to know what we always end up where we're exactly supposed to be. And
Right.
it's funny because doesn't matter who I'm talking to, the folks from the US, from Brazil, Mexico, India, China, after some point, as long as you're aware of what's going on around you, as long as you're focused and know yourself, you end up exactly where you're supposed to end up.
Right. And I no big surprise here, but to me, the journey is a lot like climbing a mountain. And a lot of times when we're climbing a mountain, there are moments of doubt. Should I go back down? Should I sit and rest for a minute and think about things, let my body recover, my mind recover a little bit? And, or am I even going to see anything when I get to the top? The weather's kind of lousy, whatever it may be. Um, there are self doubts that are imposed upon us just by the conditions around us. And then there are the ones we bring upon ourselves. And it almost always works out that if you just keep climbing and get to the top, you're rewarded with this amazing view that actually is so inspiring that it helps you forget about all those things that happened along the way. And it's been that way for me. The view's almost always worth the climb.
100%. There is this German philosopher. I'm actually a huge fan of his. I like to read his work because he speaks English perfectly, of course, but that heavy German accent is just too heavy for me. So I avoid watching his videos, just reading his books and articles and everything. His name is Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I'm very familiar. Yes.
yeah. He once said, many times said that we should observe the thoughts, but never believe them, because everything. But first of all, we don't know anything. Like, is it what is it not? This is your direction because it's who you are. You wouldn't have chosen that direction. Like you, for example, you're an author, speaker. The fact that you are an author and a speaker, to me, and please correct me if you believe I'm wrong, to me implicates that you could have been many other things. You could have been a journalist. You could have been, because those are skills that are general, and they could have aimed at something else, yet they weren't. So that's, as long as you know who you are, as long as you ignore the thoughts, because we all have them, that brilliantly, you said it brilliantly, that self-doubt and stuff, like we all go through, but once we are aware of what's going on, I think it's rather easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, in talking to other people in other professions, it happens, say, in art school, if you do a piece and it's subjected to critique by everyone in your class, if you listen to what everybody says, you're not going to produce very good work, because it's all about the self-doubt and not about the end product. Conversely, if you just ignore what everyone's saying, you don't grow either. So to me, part of the of the mix here is figuring out, taking in criticism that you believe is valid, um, and processing it and saying, huh, how did they think I was representing this? Or how did they think I was talking about this? Should I restructure the sentence in the case of writing? Um, and it's taking that feedback and then deciding, you get to decide what you take and what you leave. Um, and that's all part of the process too, of growing and sticking with your path.
There is a very, very favorite poem of mine. I just pulled it up when you said that, because I just had to share it, by Reginald Kipling. It's called
If
poem. I don't know if you know it. And it's exactly what you just say. You know, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. That I just pull it out right now, because that's, you just said it perfectly. You have to have that balance, you know, not to be thrown out of road, but still
yeah,
to be brilliantly said. I absolutely congratulate you for, congratulations for that. That was right on top. Now the third question will be a little bit more odd to say, and it's, how did you know this was the way to go? The reason I'm asking is I'm pretty sure it's the same in the United States, because it's like that in Europe, and it's like that partially in Asia. I'm pretty sure you've noticed that folks are going to colleges and universities because they have that stigma, right? You have to have a degree to secure your future, which is totally not true. Absolutely, I can give countless examples. I'm not going to, because I don't have to. And they don't know themselves. They often go to those colleges, universities, graduate something that definitely is not for them, but it was the first option they got. They start working something related to that, which is not for them either, and that makes them miserable. That kind of misery transfers to the home, to the personal life, and it's rather dangerous. And a couple of folks contacted me about that. I'm not against colleges. I'm not against universities. I myself am actually an educated man. I went to college. I went to university. I'm about to start PhD. So obviously, I don't have a problem with those institutions. I have a problem with those institutions losing the time of young people, which is a huge problem, because what we have 22, 3, 4-year-old people, young adults with zero working experience and zero work ethics, that they feel entitled that somebody owns them something because now they have a diploma. And this is a problem. And truth be told, I have never seen anyone actually address that issue seriously. And that's why I started the whole podcast, because to be honest, I was looking for a podcast that talks about that so that I could contribute there, and there wasn't one, so I made one. And it's a huge problem, because I'm sure you've lost some money and friend stuff. I did as well. And I'm fine with that. But as long as you start losing time and you can't get that back, especially in that very, of course, every aspect of our life is important. But this is when you lay the foundation. And when you start doing it, then that's a problem. And I just wanted to collect your examples and to hear some wisdom. So, Drew, please
yeah.
share how you knew this was the way to go.
Well, it's interesting. I came up in a family where literature and wordsmithing and wordplay and those kinds of things were very much ingrained. Classical literature was the basis of a lot of discussion. You talked about Kipling, and of course Thoreau, and a number of other people. And also history was incredibly important to my family. We were all of us kids, our parents would take us to historical places, and teach us about the importance of history and learning from it. So when I and the outdoors were also sort of in the mix there. So a respect for nature was also a big part of our upbringing. So put those three things together, and when I went to college, I did not steer toward a singular profession, although I did profess to have interest in journalism, which you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Um, but my philosophy has always been to have what my dad used to call a loose hand on the tiller, meaning that when you're steering the boat, if you try to grip the rudder with everything that you have, like squeezing the sawdust out of it, the boat wants to go in a general direction. And if you're trying to force it into a path that you're going to exhaust yourself and you're probably going to beat the boat up, you're better off saying, I know I want to head in a general northerly direction. And if I'm northeast or northwest, that's okay, as long as the goal is still within sight. And we're
I'm doing
not
boat
getting
rowing every weekend, so I understand completely.
right. And so it's that loose hand on the tiller analogy that gave me the permission, parentally and self, gave me the permission when I went to college to explore a number of different subjects. And I value the fact that I'm more of a generalist than somebody who got pigeonholed into a profession. And for me, that was the value of college, is have this suite of different subjects that you could explore: Native American history, theology, history, of course, was one of my favorites, and English and American literature. And so when I came out of there, it was more of the world is your oyster, but it was also a healthy dose of, and constitutional law was one of the subjects too. So there's a healthy dose of sort of allowing yourself to be inquisitive, and in fact be driven by inquisitiveness, as opposed to a certain career or money or prestige or any of those things, which makes me, I think, a little bit of a odd duck, in that I didn't go to college to become a fill in the blank. But what I ended up getting out of that was some knowledge about a huge swath of different industries, which when I went into commercial writing, lo and behold, I was the guy who could write about insurance and personal finance and goat milk soap and outdoor gear and you name it, semiconductors. I've written about all of them for a variety of different clients. And I think anyone who goes into writing, you either have that or you find out where to get it. When you're researching, if your mind is active that way anyway, your writing's going to be better. And so I can't summarily say that college was a bad choice for me, but in my case, it was a good choice because of that sort of general knowledge base. But I, like you, have seen a number of people who at age 16 said, I'm dead set on becoming this. And they got 3/4 or 7/8 down the road and went, what have I done?
Yeah.
And course correcting at that juncture isn't impossible, but you're already deep into a lot of potential self-guilt, self-debt. What do I tell my parents if they're involved in the financing? All of that stuff that we burden ourselves with. It's really tough at that juncture to be honest with yourself and say, I made a mistake. a lot of people, including ourselves, will say, buck up and go into the profession for a couple of years and end up being miserable. So, what's the right answer? The best answer I can give is to follow your heart and follow your passion, because you may stub your toe early on, but it's easier to recover when you make the choice early on than going through years of misery, which affects not only you but the people around you.
Exactly. And couple of things I want to highlight about what you said. I love the fact that you're into history. My father was deep into history, so naturally so was I. And I studied a lot, mostly European and Asian history, not that much about the States, unfortunately. Never got the time. When I was in college, I actually partied a little bit too hard. Like, and I actually worked as a bartender back then, so you can imagine what it was like. And I think it was my first or second year in college, can't remember because it's been so long ago. And my father came to me with a newspaper, an article says, "But it's good to know about history." And I said, "Yeah, nobody argues. It's so good because you basically know what will happen because we haven't changed at all." And he pointed at an article where in either Iran or Iraq, they found a clay tablet, a 6,000-year-old clay tablet, where a father is writing to the priests at the ziggurat, the temple over there, and saying that he's worried about his son because his son doesn't work a lot, chases women, drinks way too much wine, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Let's say at 6,000 years, I have the same problem. So,
That's great.
yeah, so knowing about history in a matter is basically knowing what will happen, because it's always a cycle, right? It's always the funniest thing is that it doesn't matter where you are. You can be anywhere, and it's always the same thing going on and on. Another thing you highlighted, and I really appreciate that you said it, that what have I done, after some time, and now you don't know how to approach it. I think all of this is due to the ego that we have, and what will other people think about me? What will happen if I fail somehow? First of all, in that age, you're supposed to fail. You're supposed to fail in that age so that you can learn in that age, so you don't have to fail afterwards. Because it's one thing to do it when you're 20 something, and completely different when you're 40 something. You have children and family, and I've seen that with my own eyes. It's not a pretty view.
Right.
So if you're able to nullify the ego, that'd be perfect for you in general.
Right. And I also, one of the other things I sort of adhere to is what I call the decision funnel. And if you're, heading down into a career or any decision making, I try to keep some options open as long as I can. It's not indecisiveness, but it's a reality of, if I get too far down this path, what are my options in terms of course correcting? It really helps to have that perspective, because that way you don't get blinded by your ambition and say, wow, I went to work for this company and now I don't have many choices in terms of what I'm doing. Either I've soiled the bed with other companies or whatever it may be. You've sort of pigeonholed yourself into an outcome. And I really try to keep my head up and look around me and be aware of what's happening, both in my career and my career, my finances, my writing projects, whatever it may be, and say, I want to be able to have some options here. If one project starts going south, I've got this other one on the back burner that I've been kind of poking around doing some research on. So if all of a sudden nobody's buying books about X and I've been spending all this time researching that subject, and all of a sudden nobody wants to, very few people are interested in that because the world has changed. What do I do? well, I have this other option. And it's good for your mind too, to have other things in play that keep you active and engaged. If you pull the shades down and you're only focused on one outcome, you're setting yourself up for uh, anything but a happy ending.
It's pretty good advice that you gave, because, and you said it in the beginning, you have vast knowledge, but you're also covering the general ground. You're not laser focused in one thing, because in all fairness, it was pretty good to be focused and a perfect expert in one thing about 50 years ago, but the world is way too dynamic now. I honestly, I'm noticing that even folks who are in the IT sector, and they're pretty well paid people, they got pretty good salaries. If and I talked to them as well. If those people didn't pick up new things and new languages, new information along the way, and they just kept it with the original information, they wouldn't last more than 2 years in the position.
Right. Yeah. The world passes them by. You know, what they used to have as a competitive advantage isn't a competitive advantage anymore. And you know, that's really good to keep your eye on. What are my other options? And you know, everyone I know who's very happy has not one passion, but a couple of them. You know, it's just good. And I believe that the world belongs to the inquisitive.
Yeah.
I think that the ability to ask questions, to find answers, to just be curious is really a wonderful thing. And I'm a little biased because that's what really drives me. But you know, I just will love taking on a project of, here's something new to learn about, baking bread or carving a wooden spoon, or, you know, whatever it may be. That's what keeps me vital. It keeps the mind and body active.
Indeed. Not to mention, it's like a snowball effect, especially if you know what you want and you know that this is for you. Once you start, you can't just stop. You can never go back. You just keep adding on and adding on.
Right.
With that said, Jeffrey, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing those words of wisdom. Please don't forget to send me the links about the books and the articles and everything. I'll put them in the description below once I upload the video.
Wonderful chatting with you.
Likewise.
Okay. Take care. You too.
Bye-bye. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.